see. Ron Bradshaw's not here this evening. He just got out of the hospital. He had to go in yesterday, and they found out that, well, they really don't know what it was, but his foot was swollen up really badly. And the last I talked to him, Zeke, he told me he thought it was cellulitis. And I have no idea what cellulitis is. Yeah, but I do know that they were pumping him full of antibiotics, and he was sent home this evening. So he is home. So remember Ron in your prayers. And also, Tyler is not going to be our youth leader anymore. He and his wife are going back down to Oak Grove. They went on their anniversary, and I think she probably determined they needed to go back to Oak Grove. But it is what it is. And we'll survive. So, as a matter of fact, I'll miss Tyler. I really will miss Tyler. I'll just leave it at that. All right, is there anything else that we need to mention? All right, Harold, we'll remember that. Oh, really? Yeah. Sandra. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's second time this week I've heard about a grandchild or a child that would you just not listen if you wanted to talk about God to them. And both of them raised in church, just like your son. So. Really? Well, just keep praying. That's all you can do. You feel so helpless sometimes. Any other prayer needs we need to mention? Yeah. This was a very powerful Christian influence to the youth of our country. And Lord knows we need that. Harold, I think I saw somebody come in up there. But he was a very powerful influence. Well, you don't know what the ultimate outcome of this is going to be and how this will affect people that might be lost. That he, yeah. Very sad. All right. I got started on the classrooms over there today. It's going to be nice when they get it done, but it don't look too nice right now. Linda, honey, don't go over there tomorrow. You'll have a heart attack. Actually, they've cleaned it up quite well, haven't they? They tore the walls down and, or not the walls, but took the sheetrock off of the walls that are going to be redone, and I thought, man, that's going to be a mess at the end of the day. And it was a mess about halfway through, and when they were done today, I went over there and it's clean as a whistle. So they cleaned it all out. Phil, how you doing, buddy? You want to share with us? Well, if I had a colonoscopy, I wouldn't want to talk about it either. Well, how did things go? Was everything good? That's all? Oh, okay. Well, that's a good report, really. So, anything else before we get started? Oh, that's good news there. That's definitely good news. Aunt Caroline has certainly, she's been through it, that kid has. I mean, it's just been one thing after another. But maybe she's getting ready to yeah, check on Rusty. Charlie. He's outside. Going back, Ray. Harold's outside. Looks like everything's okay. Everything okay? Oh. I thought it was Rusty. I thought that gold chain was getting too heavy for him. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to have Leon open in prayer for us, if he would. Amen. All right. You can turn to Genesis if you want to, but we're not moving past in the beginning God. So you really don't need your Bible tonight. This is the last night of the introduction, and then we'll be going into the chapters. I do want to give credit a lot of the commentaries and stuff that I've been using for this study. Dennis Prager and his book on Genesis is one that I've been using. Wilmington's Guide to the Bible has a lot of good things. And then, of course, Henry Morris, which is probably the best and the top defender of creation. I've been using his works, and John MacArthur, of course. John MacArthur, he's got some excellent writing on creationism. But we talked about the cosmological argument on Sunday evening. Tonight we're going to move into the theological argument. In the beginning, God. You either believe it or you don't believe it. Well, I don't see it any other way, and when the argument is put forth from a biblical perspective, it's hard to deny the fact that the earth, the solar system, everything had to have an intelligent design. We ended up Sunday night talking about the Big Bang Theory, that big boom went off and everything came together and was created, which is absolute nonsense. And but they continue to push that theory, and that's all it is a theory. Some would say that the theological argument or the intelligent design argument would say that it's a theory. It's not a theory. It's been solidified throughout the Word of God and throughout history. But the theological argument is what we're going to look at tonight. This is the argument from design, which basically argues that every design has to have what? A designer. There's nothing designed without a designer. Now, the universe and life demonstrate a highly complex design. When you look at the earth, when you look at all creation, when you look at the stars, the galaxies, it didn't just happenstance come into being. There had to be a designer in order to bring it forth. Therefore, the universe and life had a designer. Now, I'm going to put forth some of these arguments as we go along, and the arguments stand much stronger for intelligent design, or the theological argument, than could ever be put forth with the Big Bang Theory and some of the theories that the evolutionists want to put forth. It's just common sense. Every design has to have a designer. Every composition has to have a composer, and every painting has to have a painter, and every sculpture has to have a sculptor. It just makes sense. To deny it is just being, how would you say, you're pretty much being knowingly ignorant. In other words, you know you're wrong, but you're going to stand with it even though you know what you're putting forth is a lie. And that's what many of the scientists and evolutionists have done throughout the ages. Carl Sagan being one of the worst, and we'll mention that as we move along tonight. But the only thing that we need to determine is, does the universe in general and life in particular demonstrate a highly complex design, or is it an accident? And that's what needs to be established. Life itself demonstrates a complex design. Dr. Geisler gives this illustration. Let's say, this is a great illustration. Let me read it carefully so you can pick up and understand it. Let's say you're on the beach and you look up into the sky and you see, drink Coca-Cola. What do you assume? Unusual cloud formation, or that some intelligent being put the message there, or did it just, the cloud just come together to advertise that? Even atheists assume the latter, because that little message, drink Coca-Cola, took an intelligent being to put it together, and natural elements, wind, rain, and storm, never produced drink Coca-Cola. Or you get up tomorrow and the alphabet cereal is spilled all over the table, and right in the middle of it, it says, "Take out the garbage, Mom." What do you assume? Well, an earthquake knocked over the cereal, and the wind blew on it and arranged the letters, "Take out the garbage, Mom." Now, natural forces will never produce take out the garbage mom. It'll never happen. When you spill the alphabet cereal on the table, only an intelligent being can put the letters together to say, take out the garbage mom. So it takes a specific complexity in order to do so, and it would be impossible for it to come together by accident. Now, contrast the Grand Canyon or natural forces producing random results with Mount Rushmore specified in its complexity. Hold on just a second. Okay. So, the problem with many scientists is this. These scientists, they refuse to acknowledge the specified in nature that points to a creator, that nature points specifically to a designer or to a creator. In his book, The Blind Watchmaker, Oxford University professor Richard Dawkins, a leading evolutionist, calls biology the study of complicated things that gives the appearance of having been designed for a purpose. Now, Romans 1:18 says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth of unrighteousness," pointing back to Richard Dawkins and this statement that he just made. Now, there's enough coded genetic information in a single-cell organism to the information in Webster's in a single-cell organism equal to the information in Webster's unabridged dictionary. Now, that's in the genetic code. Now, would anyone in their right mind believe that Webster's unabridged dictionary result from an explosion in the printing shop? That's how we got the dictionary. That's how we got the Webster's dictionary. An explosion took place, and it all came together alphabetical, and all of the terms that are explained in the Webster's dictionary came together by accident when the shop blew up. Now, this is what the evolutionists want us to believe. And unfortunately, that's what many people do believe. Many of our young people, our college students especially, they believe the lies of these knuckleheads. But there's enough coded genetic information in a single-cell organism equal to the information in Webster's unabridged dictionary. But that's how ridiculous it is to believe that there is no intelligence behind the complexity that we see in even the simplest life things here on the earth. Even Darwin, Darwin's bulldog, Richard Dawkins, they called him Darwin's bulldog, admits that every cell contains in its nucleus a digitally coded database larger than all 30 volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica put together. Now, according to Carl Sagan, here's my favorite, old Sagan, billions and billions and billions of years ago, okay, there was a big explosion in the galaxy, and everything came together. Golly, I wonder how he likes hell. Because as far as I know, he died holding on to his lies. He never changed. He was too proud to change. But according to Carl Sagan, the human brain has enough genetic information that if spelled out in English, it would fill the Library of Congress 20 million volumes. So, Sagan, before he died, and other biological evolutionists continue to tell us that all of this happened through a random force, by accident, without any intelligent designer whatsoever. And that's what's taught as truth in our schools. And that's what many scientists believe. But some years ago, Carl Sagan was receiving a lot of money from the government. That has a lot to do with it. For the SETI, that's Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which used radio telescopes to listen for radio waves coming from outer space to try to determine if there was intelligent life out there, and they're trying to communicate with us. That craziness is still going on. Watch the History Channel. But the main criterion was that the radio waves had to have order or a pattern to them to prove intelligent life was trying to communicate to us. And they searched for years and years and years, and they never found anything. Think about that. Billions and billions and billions of years, and they never found anything. But anyway, one day, Dr. A.E. Wilder Smith, a Christian and a brilliant man with several earned PhDs, said to Sagan, "Carl, get rid of your radio telescope and come with me into the laboratory and look through the electron microscope, and I'll show you a digital code on the helix of DNA that is ordered and proves that there is outside intelligence." Carl Sagan refused to look. He refused to do it because he knew he was wrong. And Peter talks about those people who are willingly ignorant. They choose to be that way. But in a book that was published near the end of his life, Sagan wrote, "Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic darkness. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves." But you still got people everywhere waiting for the aliens to come and straighten us out. I mean, it's just amazing how the human psyche wants to replace God with everything and refuse to accept God and God's intelligent design. But how tragic. Sagan looked into the creation, and he refused to see the hand of the Creator. And as such, life became meaningless, and he died in utter despair, without hope of anything more. How tragic. So, if he would only have looked into the microscope at that incredible complexity that he was invited to do in the human cell, maybe his eyes would have been open at last to the design that unmistakably points toward a creator, an intelligent design by a creator. Michael Behe, in his book, Darwin's Black Box, destroys Darwinism's evolution by documenting the incomprehensible complexity of life at its most basic chemical, cellular level. He said, evolution cannot explain the origin of the complex biochemical structures that undergird life. It doesn't even try. The conclusion of intelligent design flows naturally from the data itself, not from the sacred books of sectarian beliefs. But a single cell from a human being could have 100,000 molecules and 10,000 intricately interrelated chemical reactions going on at the same time. Wow. So, cells couldn't arise by chance. They don't come up by chance. Now, Michael Behe has shown that there is such thing as irreducible complexity in a cell using a mousetrap as the illustration. But anyway, which simply put means that you have to have the basic parts of all of it simultaneously to come together, or the cell will not work. You can't take a mousetrap and the base of it by itself. You can't take the little thing that you set up. And you can't take the thing that snapped your finger when you accidentally let go of it. It's all got to be put together, and that's true in this case. Now, these basic components of the cell cannot evolve separately. They have to all be present together at the same time in order for the cell to exist. Now, back in many years ago, Dr. John MacArthur was speaking, and he shares this story, and this is a wonderful story, by the way. I received a call one day from a man named Dr. Richard Lumsden. Dr. Lumsden was the chairman of the science department at Tulane University. If I'm not mistaken, Tulane is Southern Baptist University. What groups is it connected with? I know it began as a Christian college. But anyway, huh? Yeah. But anyway, Dr. Lundstrom was the chairman of the science department at Tulane University. He was a renowned microbiologist who does electron microscopy and looks in there and sees DNA strips, and he studies the chromosomes. His premier work had been on cell membranes. Now, every little cell has a membrane, and he was struggling professionally with that issue as a staunch evolutionist because there was no way the membrane could evolve to keep the cell contained. Now, they would have to come up into existence simultaneously, and there was no way that they could have happened scientifically by using evolution as the explanation. And so he was struggling. As a completely secular humanist, he was teaching his classes in the graduate school of Tulane, and then a Christian girl came up after class, and he said she asked me a bunch of questions. She said, "Dr. Lundstrom, may I talk to you and ask you some questions?" He said, "Of course." And he said she asked me all the standard questions that Christians ask evolutionists. I'd heard them on other occasions, and I gave her the standard answers, or the talking points, let's put it that way, the standard answers, and she gave me a brief comment after each one, and then she thanked me and left. In other words, she refuted everything that he told her. And when she walked away, he said, all I heard was the echo of my own stupidity. So all I heard was as she walked away, was my own stupidity. And I said to myself, if you believe what you just told that girl, you're an idiot. I went home that day and I got a Bible, and in a matter of a few weeks I committed my life to Jesus Christ. And I became a creationist. And not only a creationist, I became a sixth-day creationist. It was the only thing that made sense scientifically to me at that point. I was immediately terminated at Tulane University. I lost my job and my career. This was a Harvard-educated man, by the way, brilliant man, had numerous degrees. I had to reconstruct my worldview. I started a business, and for the next 5 years, made my living from the business while I went back through everything I had ever studied scientifically in the light of what I knew about the Creator. And then MacArthur goes on to say this. At the end of the 5 years, he offered himself to the Institute of Creation Research in San Diego and became the most formidable debater against evolution across America on the university campuses, kind of like Charlie Kirk. That's what Charlie Kirk was doing before some demon murdered him today. But the university campus, until they wouldn't debate him anymore. They quit debating him. They couldn't win. This guy was a lot smarter than they were. So they wouldn't debate him anymore. And then he came to teach at the Master's Seminary until he retired. How many of you know where the Master's Seminary is? John MacArthur Seminary out in California. So this guy got saved because it was revealed to him how stupid he was, all the arguments that he had been putting forth for evolution. But life itself demonstrates complex design. Life itself demonstrates it. The universe demonstrates complex design. No principle in modern science has given more impetus to the belief that there must be an intelligent creator than the anthropic principle, it's called. Back in 1997, there was a movie that came out starring Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey called Contact. How many of you saw that movie? Did you see it? Did you buy into it? I didn't think so. But the novel from which the movie was taken was written by none other than our old buddy Carl Sagan, billions and billions and billions of years ago. I used to just hate to listen to him and watch him on TV. And I watched him to try to get ammunition against him. But anyway, the main thought of the theme of the movie was repeated 3 times in the movie. If there is an intelligent life out there, then there is a lot of wasted space in the universe. What do y'all think about that statement? Do you think there's just, if we're the only ones here, look at all that space that's been wasted. And that was the whole premise of that movie. Now, sounds logical, doesn't it? Sounds logical given the incredible size of the universe, but the anthropic principle proves that the statement is not true. The anthropic principle demonstrates that for life on Earth to be possible, the universe needed to be the size that it is. Okay, let me explain. Let me continue on, or let me use Robert Jastrow and some others to explain. But the anthropic principle is the most interesting development next to the proof of creation, and it's even more interesting because it seems to say that science itself has proven as a hard fact that this universe was made, was designed for man to live in, and it is a very theistic result. So, what is the anthropic principle? It says that the universe has been finely tuned by a designer, by a creator. It's been finely tuned, precisely tweaked to support life here on Earth. In other words, it's all to support Earth. What does that do to the, is there anybody out there theory? What does that do to, well, I'm sure all the different planets, I'm sure there's some planets that have life on it. I sure don't want to be Preacher Thompson. Preacher Thompson made the comment one time. He said, if God wanted man on the moon, he would have put him there. And then in 1969, man supposedly walked on the moon. And I'm still not so sure about that. I'd say it's a pretty proven fact. But I'm not sure. But Frank Thompson used to make that statement. Well, I don't want to be one of these that makes this statement and then later on some alien shows up at the Capitol and wants to talk to the president. I don't think that's ever going to happen. What do you think, Leon? You think, is there anybody out there? Now, I know that we've seen things. All of us have. Of course, I was pretty out there the night I saw that flying saucer. It was out there driving between Milwaukee and Waukesha up in Wisconsin. But I definitely saw some unidentified flying object in the air. What could that possibly have been? Was that an alien from outer space? Was I just stoned out of my gourd and saw a light? I had to convince my buddy that it was out there. He couldn't see it. So it must have just been me. So think about that just for a second. All of these unidentified flying objects, even Trump and even the administration is trying to prove that there is unidentified flying objects and they don't know where they might come from. What about the theory that it's demons? That's what a lot of Christians believe. They believe these things present themselves in such a way, and they're demonic. So I don't know. We don't know. But I do know that the universe was created just for us, according to this philosophy that I'm sharing with you right now, the anthropic principle. But it says that the universe has been finely tuned, precisely tweaked to support life here on Earth. For example, oxygen comprises 21% of the atmosphere. If it were 25% spontaneous, fires would break out everywhere. If it were 15%, we'd suffocate. In other words, 21% is exactly what we need, and it's exactly what we have. Oh, that's pretty intense, isn't it? The gravitational force, let's look at that. The gravitational force, if it were altered by 1 part in 10 to the 40th power, our sun would not exist. The moon would crash into the earth or fly off into space. And that is an incredibly minute change in the gravitational force which would prohibit life on this planet. If the gravitational force, if it were altered, 1 part in 10 to the 40th power. If the centrifugal force did not precisely balance the gravitational force, nothing would be held into orbit and the planets would crash into each other. Be like a bunch of marbles being thrown out. You ever, when you're a kid, you ever play marbles and you had a bag and you'd throw them marbles out and look for I forget what they called it, the one you shot with? Huh? And that was one thing they called it. I forget what we called it. Huh? Well, no, we had a name for the, huh? What? Nope, that wasn't what we called it. Yeah, I think that, who knows? But anyway, anyway, the centrifugal force, if it did not precisely balance the gravitational force, nothing would be held in orbit. The planets would be like a bag of marbles being thrown out. That would be what would be going on. The universe is expanding. If it were expanding at a rate of 1/1,000,000th slower than it is now, the temperature on Earth would be 10,000 degrees. And we thought we had a hot summer. The average distance between stars in our galaxy, which contains roughly 300 to 400 billion stars, as Sagan would say, okay? Billions and billions of stars. But anyway, 3 to 400 billion stars is 30 trillion miles. The space shuttle travels at 17,000 miles per hour on 5 miles a second. At that speed, it would take over 1.7 billion years to travel from one star to another in our galaxy. Now, if the distance between those stars were altered slightly, the orbits would become erratic and extreme temperature variations would occur here on Earth. Hence, everything is for us. I hate to be selfish like that, but everything, our intelligent designer, who we call Yahweh or God, designed it perfectly for us. That sounds kind of arrogant, doesn't it, Ray? Didn't that say, surely there's others on other planets that, anyway. Any one of the laws of physics, Mandy, can be described as a function of the velocity of light. Therefore, even the slightest variations in the speed of light would alter all the other constants and negate the possibility of life here on Earth. Can you explain that? Yeah. Oh, man. If Jupiter wasn't the size that it is, or in its current orbit, life on Earth probably wouldn't be possible. You see, because Jupiter is so big, it acts like a cosmic vacuum cleaner. Its gravitational field is so strong that all the asteroids and other space junk that could slam into the Earth get sucked into Jupiter. I didn't know that till today. The thickness of the Earth's crust is just right, just perfectly right to support life. Otherwise, it wouldn't support life. Now, the rotation of the Earth is just right, 24 hours. If it were faster, say 15 hours, the wind velocities among the surface of the Earth would be too great. If it were slower, let's say 36 hours, the temperature of the Earth would be too hot during the day and too cold at night for us to survive. Man, isn't it amazing when you start thinking about these things? I bet y'all will be glad next week when I get into the fall of man, won't you? It'll be a little simpler. It'll be a little easier for me too, believe me. The actual tilt of the Earth is exactly what it needs to be for life to be possible on this planet. What is the tilt of the Earth? 23%. 23%. God has even designed lightning for a purpose and precisely regulates it. If the atmospheric discharge rate was greater, there would be too much fire destruction. If it were less, there would be too little nitrogen fixing in the soil. Man. So lightning has a purpose other than killing people and scaring my dog. And we could go on, but I think you kind of get the picture that there is an intelligent designer who we call God, Jehovah. Please share it with us. How many? Oh, okay. Well, last time I counted them, there was 237,000. Oh, yeah. I mean, in other words, the Bible was right all along. And it always is. But but you could go on and on. There's so much more that shows the intelligent design and that truly God created. But in light of the anthropic principle, I just don't have enough faith to believe any of that stuff. You talk about having to have faith. You have to have a lot of faith to believe this evolutionary and this evolution junk that has been put down our young people's minds for years upon years now. But the universe demonstrates such precision and intricate design. It has been so finely tweaked to support life here on Earth that there is absolutely no other explanation than what the psalmist said. In Psalm 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the expanse of the universe shows his craftsmanship. And then Psalm 8:1 says, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth, who have set your glory above the heavens. So I think it's very important that we realize that we don't need to back down with the secular view of evolution. And what do you think about this? You're in college and you've got some egghead professor, and this egghead professor is teaching you about how the universe through the Big Bang Theory came together and all of this, and then you have a test. Should you lie on the test just to get a good grade? What do y'all think about that? I know many college students that have done just that. They had to, otherwise they'd fail the course. Zeke's just getting started in college. Watch out for them. Watch out for them atheists out there. They're everywhere. I don't have anything else. Do y'all have anything before we close?
There's a verse that I was thinking about while you were talking about the proof of the heavens and everything proves the existence of intelligent design. It's Romans chapter 1 verse 20, which says, For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just,
Well,
what it's saying is basically, Paul saying you can't look at the sky and the creation and deny God.
well, if you do, what was the terms I used earlier? It's determinate ignorance. You determine to be stupid, to hold your lie, whatever that theory might be, like Carl Sagan. Boom, boom. But anyway, anything else? He's in communications. He ain't going to have no worries. Isn't that right? You're in communications, right? This is Zeke Williams at WDCD down here in Tuscaloosa, Oklahoma. I don't have anything else, do you? I hope y'all have a good rest of the week. If you got any questions about Tyler, just ask me. He and I had a long conversation today. We're all good. And pretty much his family's important to him. So we'll leave it at that. God bless you and have a good day.